Welcome to another episode of the Growth Through Adversity podcast with your host, Ragnar the War Wolf. What is up, people? So, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my business and just kind of the story that led me to where I'm at right now. And honestly, like, we're just getting started on this journey. And I'm learning every step of the way. So I'm just going to kind of share with you guys what I've learned over the last 5 years of being in business for myself and of kind of some of the moves I've made, some of the mistakes I've made, and some of the things that hopefully I've done right. So, number one, I mean, obviously, like business is about making money. At the end of the day, like you can't have a business if it's not profitable. So that's really like what we all get into business for. It's like number one, we want to do something we're passionate about, but we want to do something we're passionate about that can also pay our fucking bills because, passion without an income doesn't really do you much good in this life because you those bills aren't going to go away. You know what I mean? The rent man's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear. So I think one of the keys to life is finding something that you enjoy to do and that you're good at and that can pay you money, ideally more and more money, right? Something that's scalable. And I've always loved fitness, right? So those of you who know me, I had a very, very rough childhood. I had a very rough late teenage years. I got into drugs. I got into all kinds of bad stuff, and it led me down a super dark road, including many, many years in prison. And it was like, while I was in prison, I kind of reached a point eventually where I was just tired of doing the fucking stupid shit that had got me there, and I wanted to do something else. And so I knew that the common thread was um, drugs, right? I had to get clean because that was what would continue. I was looking at guys that were in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 40s when I was a 20-year-old, and I was thinking, like what's the common thread? What do these guys all have in common? And they just keep coming in, out, in and out, and in and out. And it's drugs. You know what I mean? They're all fucking drug addicts. And then they go out to commit crimes to fuel their drug habit. And that's, kind of like what keeps the engine turning, keeps the lights on in prisons. If there wasn't drugs, there probably wouldn't be any need for prisons in the US, or there'd be a much smaller need for prisons in the US. But that's a discussion for another day. But either way, so I identified the problem and I decided like how am I going to solve the problem? So I got clean, but getting clean is off a hard drug like meth is not fucking easy, right? So I needed something powerful, right? And I had a spiritual path that I still walk to this day. Those who know me know I wear a hammer. And I needed, something physical too. Something I needed to work on myself. Like I'm a builder, right? So like or I'm a destroyer, one of the two. Like I'm one extreme or the other. So and in prison, you don't have a lot else you can work on, but you can work on yourself because you have a lot of time. Now it's the opposite. I don't have any time, but I have, all these other things. So it's kind of ironic how life goes. But so I decided to start working on myself. And one of the things I've always liked is training, boxing, combat sports, lit weight lifting. And so in my early 20s, when I decided to get clean, I naturally went down the path of, starting to lift, starting to work out. And what happened was I didn't do it right, right? I didn't do it with the system. I didn't do it with the program. I listened to the wrong people for sure. And I ended up tearing myself up. I hurt my knee, I hurt my shoulder, I hurt my back. But it really did help me get clean, get off the drugs, stay off the drugs, and get focused onto a new path, right? It also planted a seed in my mind of like, hey, it's really not a good idea to take fucking training advice from a bunch of fucking idiots. And, so then I started studying, then I got certified, I started studying, and it kind of like the pieces kind of connected even while I was locked up that like, man, I could make a career out of fitness and I would never work another day in my life. I'm good at training people. I like training people. It's something I'm passionate about. I love research. I love studying. I love like just how fascinating the human body is, like its capacity to adapt and to change, and to evolve. So it was like, man, if this is something that I could turn into a career, great. And so I got my certifications, which ultimately, like once you get out here in the workforce, you realize they're virtually useless. They're just fucking pieces of paper that you spend a lot of money to get, and but they don't teach you anything that you really need to know about fitness, right? Because you know the fitness side of things by this time, but what you don't know is the fucking business side of things. Like what that little certification isn't going to teach you is how to get clients, how to get people to pay you, how to get, you know what I mean, how to market, how to advertise, how to post on social media, how to get people to know who the fuck you are, right? Especially in a market like fitness that's hyper polluted, right? Like so, there's everybody's a fitness coach nowadays. Um, so like that got me started, right? And I kind of realized along the way that, money doesn't solve all your problems. Like, it's not going to make you a better person. It's not going to make you a better father. It's not going to make you a better husband, but it does solve a lot of your problems, right? Because, so what money does is it basically, like, the way that I see it is it changes your stress. Because I won't say that today as a business owner that, I mean, really, like, I'm not filthy rich by any means, but we don't really have financial problems. Like our all of our bills are paid, and like there it's been a very long time since I've had to worry about anything financial, like in the sense of, like, am I not going to be able to pay this bill, where I've had to like juggle money from one account to another to pay this card on time to make sure, like I've done all that, and I haven't had to do it in a very long time. So when I say that, like, we've financially we're set, that's what I mean, is that there's really there's nothing that we can't buy that we want. There's nothing that we don't have that we want or desperately need. And there's never a time where we're worried about our bills or our credit card bills or, massive piles of debt. So, and I think that puts us ahead of most of the modern world right now. And I don't say that with any arrogance. I just say it with some semblance of pride. And um, yeah, really, I guess with pride in what I've done over the last 5 years. So, but I guess the point I was trying to make there is I'm not any less stressed today than I was when I was broke, right? And arguably in some ways I'm more stressed because the more money you make and the more, like, it's a terrifying thought to think that, the monthly amount that it costs to run this business is in the tens of twenties of thousands of dollars, right? And so, like, what happens if theoretically the faucet turned off? Like, it's a terrifying thought, right? And it's a thought that every single business owner goes through every single day of their life. And there's always something broken, there's always something to fix. And that seed's always in the back of your mind. Like, man, if it all comes unglued, like, so it's scary, right? And it's stressful, but it's a different kind of stress because you're not on a day-to-day fighting for your survival like you are when you're broke. When you're broke and you can't pay your rent and you can't pay your car note, you're worried about your car getting impounded and you can't afford groceries. Like, you're fighting for your survival, right? And I say that with, like, no small semblance of hesitation because, like, actually you're not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not actually going to die. If you can't pay your rent, there's homeless shelters you can go to. There's resources to help you. There's your landlord's probably not going to fucking kick you out immediately. You have a family member or a friend that would take you in. Like, I would take in one of my fucking friends if they ended up, becoming homeless, and I would take them in reluctantly and for a very limited amount of time because I do fancy enjoying my peace and my solitude and my space. And I love to run around my house naked ever since Theron Katie's son moved out and, got on with his life. And became a successful adult himself. Like, there's nothing I enjoy more than running around my own house naked. But I would sacrifice that for one of my brothers. You know what I mean? One of my comrades for a limited amount of fucking time with very, like, conditions of, like, you're gonna get a fucking job and you're gonna get the fuck out of my house because I don't want you to live there. I don't enjoy you living there. But so it's not actually, you're not actually, it's not like primordial times where you're quite literally fighting for survival. But the caveat here is that to your central nervous system, you are like you are. That's your central nervous system can't differentiate that type of stress. If you feel like you're not going to be able to have a shelter and you're not going to be able to afford food, and, like, you are essentially fighting for survival, and that is a different kind of stress. It's kind of stress that, does horrible things to your body and health. Whereas in a business, it's like I'm stressed all the time, but I'm stressed because I want to keep growing, right? And, I'm stressed because business is stressful and things are always breaking. And you have 6 or 7 employees now, and each one of those are human beings with human problems that make human mistakes. And every one of those mistakes ultimately comes back on me and ultimately costs me money, time, or energy, right? And it's not their fault, like they do. My employees are great. I don't have any duds. Like, if we come across a dud, we've let a few go over the years. But, like, nonetheless, even when they're doing good, they make mistakes. I make mistakes, but their mistakes are compounded and become my mistakes and my problems. So it is exponentially stressful. Or humans are humans. In my hunting trip, in my getaway, where I was supposed to, be on a honeymoon with my wife and then going hunting and, spending all this time not working. My entire 2 months in Texas, I worked more than I worked when I got home because in the middle of my fucking hunt, our fucking asshole employee quit on us without notice. And so I had to take back over the whole responsibilities of another job, sales, which is a massive fucking time drain. You know what I mean? Because what sales amounts to is you have 100 conversations to get, you know, 70 people. You schedule 100 conversations to get 70 people to show up, and of them maybe 30 people actually buy something from you. And see, it's a massive investment of time to get back, a small return of money. But that's how sales works. It's a fucking numbers game. So losing him was like, catastrophic at that time. And other things broke, ads broke, lead flow broke. And so what turned out to be, it's supposed to be a vacation. I worked, and that's what I'm talking about with stress. But that's what happens when you're a business owner. And believe me, I'm very grateful for this life, and I love what I do. So I don't mind that kind of thing. My wife doesn't appreciate it nearly as much as I do, but she is a fucking trooper. So, and that's like that's what I mean is that it's the difference between being stressed about survival and being stressed about growth, and those are two fundamentally different things. So I'm going to kind of break down like my journey, right, in business. And so number one, phase one was I was working as a landscaper in 2021. So I was, and quite literally, like I was manual labor. We were mow lawns. We would, shovel snow in the winter. We would mow lawns in the summer. We would yard clean up, with the small yard projects, nothing extensive. We weren't fucking engineers or anything. Um, and I was doing that, and like I don't mind a hard day's work. I actually like it. I actually enjoy physically working with my body. I'm fit, I'm athletic. I enjoy the feel of what my body can do. But I fucking felt like I was meant for something so much more. And I felt like I was just wasting my potential and that I could do something better with my life and and I knew I was passionate about fitness or whether, or that I loved fitness and that I'm a natural leader and that I had all of these qualities that were just screaming at me that, man, you have to do something more. And so I started kind of like, and I didn't really know what I was doing at all. I started kind of posting on social media and advertising myself as a certified personal trainer. And I ended up, stumbling into my first client. And he was a guy that just, found me on Facebook and reached out and, and I trained him at my house for a couple of months. And I think I charged him $400 a month, or maybe it was $800 a month. No, I think it was $400 a month. Yeah, something like that. I think it was like $400, something it's egregiously low compared to our common rates. So charged him, for training, and then I stumbled into a second one, right? Or maybe the second one was a little bit less of a stumble. Maybe I was just getting better. I was getting better at advertising. I was getting better at posting. I was getting better at reaching people. I was getting better at the process, right? And so I signed her up. We're training out of my house, and I realized like that, man, okay, like, dude, I can do this. You know what I mean? And so like kind of really there at that point, I was making $800 a month, and I just quit my landscaping job. And landscaping job, I wasn't making much. It was probably 2,200 bucks a month or something like that. You get a little overtime, you could maybe do like 24 or something. If you didn't do the overtime, it was probably like 16 or 1,700. So it was barely enough to live on anyways. And then it was like, and that was, and so like, and that risk aversion. So that's a quality that I see in people that are successful in business, and it's something that I have. Like, I don't give a fuck about taking risks because I've had so many risks taken with my life that where my life was like truly the wager. And I don't say that to brag. I mean, I like, but I lived a very fucking crazy life before I got locked up, and there's been, and even in prison, there were so many decisions that I made in there that like that it was like literally what was on the line was either myself getting hurt, stabbed, every fucking bone in my body broken. The risks were just so much higher. The stakes were so much higher that any risk I take nowadays, it just feels like, and even then, those risks were easy for me to take, And then I was a pro fighter, like, and so risk is easy for me. It doesn't scare me like it scares other people. In fact, that part of my brain is almost just the fear part of my brain is almost just like atrophied. It just almost doesn't work like it's supposed to, I don't think. When I get into a dangerous situation, my body, I just kind of go calm and I just kind of, I almost enjoy it, and I'm just detached from it. It's difficult to describe, but that part of my brain does not operate normally anymore. And I don't know if that was like just something I was born with, or if that was something that has been learned over a lifetime of bad decisions. It's very hard to say, and it's irrelevant at this stage. But so risk aversion. So I'm not afraid of risk, and in my mind, because the risk was like there really was no risk. It was like I hated what I was doing. I wasn't making any fucking money doing it. Really, it had no real room to grow into a meaningful career. I mean, sure, you could climb the ladder there and become fucking a fucking slob that sits in the office and tells other people to go fucking, shovel driveways, but that didn't sound appealing to me at all. You know what I mean? So it was like there was nothing to lose. Because if I failed the fucking training thing, then I was literally just right back where I started. And where I started was better than where I'd been many times in my life. And I knew what that was. It was like, okay, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I can go shovel fucking snow and I can go fucking rake lawns and I can go cut lawns for a fucking living. It's like there's worse things to do in life. I've done worse things in life. Sitting in a fucking 8x10 box for, years on end is a lot less fun than any of that. So all of it's a benefit, all of it's an upgrade from where I've been. So that was kind of my mentality. And in the beginning, so I couldn't get a job at gyms, right? So that was out the window. The big commercial chain gym, fucking corporate gyms, like corporate would shut me down. I've got dragons tattooed on my face. I've been to prison. My crime was a violent crime. It was manslaughter. It was basically a drug deal gone wrong. Guy tried to rob me in a drug deal, and I shot and killed him. So it's a violent crime, you know what I mean? So I've got like all boxes checked against me. Um, and so I'm not getting hired at a regular gym. So my options were like immediately like either just go work a menial fucking job you hate for the rest of your life or figure out how to make money on your own where you're not reliant on some fucking puke that's going to fire you. And I figured that out very early on. So I just started my own business. And in the beginning, it was like survival mode. I found a guy that let me like sublease out of his gym and pay him a pretty substantial percentage of my fees to utilize his space to train. And it was great. He was a great guy. I'm eternally grateful to him. He helped me get started, get my first few clients, get some wind in my sales. But it was just like I knew I was super limited there, and like he was really pushing. He wanted me under his brand, and I knew by that stage that like the beast within Primal Fitness is something I had cooked up in prison, and I had poured my soul into it. I mean, I wrote a whole book about it. Like, it had a whole system, it had a whole philosophy, it had a whole ideology. It was so me. It was so tied to me that I knew I wanted to grow that, and I wanted to be myself, and I wanted to be in business for myself. Now, having been in business for myself, I didn't want to be in business for this guy. So I ended up having to leave that gym and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I ran into actually a random old friend put me in touch with Matt Lindsay and he owned a gym called Southside Strength and Fitness. And Matt is a guy that came from nothing, like same as me, not as he didn't go to prison or he wasn't as stupid as I was, but he had a very rough childhood. You know what I mean? He had lots of struggle in his childhood, poor, in the foster care system and came from utterly nothing, right? And had plenty of difficulties in his earlier life. So I think he kind of empathized with where I was coming from and the fact that I wanted to grow. And from that point, he had became like a wildland firefighter, and then he had, bought his way into a gym and he became a realtor and he did all kinds of crazy stuff and became incredibly successful and still is incredibly successful and an amazing guy that I've learned a lot from. And I truly value him as a friend and as a mentor. And so he was running Southside Strength and Fitness and he wanted to grow and he wanted an awesome PT section. And so he gave me a shot and he let me train out of Southside Strength and Fitness, not attached to his gym, using my own brand and just paying him, basically a monthly fee to utilize his facilities and his space. And man, I figured it out there. And it was like, it was not, there were times in that early phase, that survival phase, where literally like one payment, I think my fees at that stage, by the time I moved to Southside, was getting a little bit more legit. My program was getting better. I was getting more experience, better at training, better at getting results. And so, we'd increase prices. And I think I was charging between like $500 and $700 a month. And I can remember like one time where it was like, now I was living in this little shitty studio apartment in Mountain View, which is like the worst part of town. It's fucking, it's all dilapidated fucking drug houses, and it's horrible. Like, don't if you ever go to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, just stay away from Mountain View. It's awful. But it was the only place that would accept my zero credit, you know what I mean, zero rental history, and also criminal record. So it was like strike one, two, three. So I got this little shitty ass studio apartment. It's major sketchy. It's in this little sketchy little area. It's always, it's homeless riffraff in and out of the little alley that it was in. And but it was home. It was what I had. And it was cheap. It was like $800 a month. But there were like multiple times that I can remember where it was like the rent was due in like a couple days. And I was like, my bank account was at like $43. You know what I mean? And I was like, but I had like a client that was going to renew, or I had like a consultation with the client. I remember I had a consultation with the client 2 days before my rent. And I was like, and I went into this consultation and I was like, man, if I don't sell this person, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent this month. And so I went in there and luckily I closed them and I signed them up and they ended up being a long-term client and we got great results with me. But it was like that was the fucking razor edge and I lived on that. And it was stressful, but again, like the mindset was always like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? And so as we got into momentum in Southside, I built what was ended up being like a very um we stabilized. I ended up build what became a very successful in-person business. It's very hard to build a successful in-person business. Very inconsistent. Man, it's very difficult to coordinate people's time, their schedule with your schedule. Find qualified leads that want an in-person trainer. Man, and market yourself and advertise yourself. I had to learn all of this stuff, how to post content. You know. But by the end of it, I had created like a pretty semi-regular acquisition system. I had learned the very, very like primitive intro level running ads on Facebook and literally on Facebook, not even on Instagram, like Facebook ads, which is something I don't do at all now because Facebook ads bring nothing but Facebook mutants, which it's, for the most part, Facebook you get some strange people out of Facebook. Every once in a while, there's a unicorn. We call them a unicorn because they come and they're fucking great. They're a great client. They're qualified. They want your program. They need your program. They work hard in your program. But the other ones are like the guys that show up to sales calls naked. So yeah, Facebook's full of fucking. It's a strange and dark place. It's like Mordor. But yeah. So like built a semi-regular acquisition system on the front end, was able to get clients basically as fast as I wanted them, needed them, and basically stayed full for a few years. And what I realized in this few years is that you cap out in-person training at somewhere between about 5 and 10K a month, 8K a month. I think 10 is pushing it. Um, when you're the only person in the business and it's really hard to hire and train and and implement, like how does that even make sense? Are they an employee? If they're an employee, like what keeps them from staying, like or just go doing their own thing, like it's just like it's difficult to scale. It's very difficult to scale. I'm sure people have scaled PT businesses in person, but it's difficult, right? And so the constraint becomes you. In-person coaching, you are the constraint. Your time is the constraint. And so that's what I realized. It's like I could run a $5,000 to $8,000 in-person business a month, but I hated my life. That was literally like because I was commuting in from the valley. By this time, I was um, dating my fiance now, or I'm dating my wife now. Fiance, what the fuck? Dating or maybe engaged. I don't remember. But I was commuting into Anchorage, so I was doing an hour commute both ways each day. And so, in order to do 5 to 8K a month, which is really like it's not great, but it's enough to live off of. Um, it was like I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I would be in Anchorage by about 5, and then I would start taking clients. Usually, my first client was at 5, and I'd have clients from like 5 a.m. till like 8 or 9 a.m. And then I would do my workout and maybe eat a little bit of food if I had time, and then I would go do more clients all afternoon, and then and into the evening, and so it's like you end up where you're like 10 hours a day and then people would not show and then and then you have these open hours and you're like fuck and or maybe it ended up weird. You'd have clients first thing in the morning, then you wouldn't have clients till late in the afternoon after work. So then I'm like just having to burn a whole day. Matt did end up like subleasing me an office in his realty office so that I could like hide in the back there and do some content and use that time effectively, or else it would have been awful. So again, very grateful for that, very grateful for him. And then, so I kind of realized that the constraint was me, and I wasn't going to be able to grow out of that. And so really what I preferred when I was in person was about $3,000 a month, because that was like I was incredibly busy at that. I was incredibly swamped, but I wasn't so swamped and so busy that I was miserable working weekends, getting home at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, like and then getting back up at 4 o'clock in the morning and driving back into Anchor. Yeah, like fucking God, that shit was awful. So yeah, your income's capped by time. Like there, you have a finite amount of time in your day, and each session you're trading your time for money, which is something that you really want to get out of as a business owner, right? You want to find a way to trade a transformation, or you want to find a way to trade a service or a package or something for money. That isn't just like 1 hour for this amount of money. You know what I mean? Because there's never going to be enough hours in the day for that to make sense on a financial basis for a business owner, right? So, like I said, I was tapped out energy. I was tapped out financially. I was just tired of it. And also, so there's downsides to in-person training, right? And one of the main ones is that, you know, people are with you, and they work hard with you. For maybe they see you twice or three times a week, whatever. They work hard for that hour, but then you're so busy. I just described my schedule to you. You don't have time to fucking build them a nutrition plan. And you can't afford to build them a nutrition plan. You're trading their time, their money for your time, so you can give them a great experience in those hours that they're with you. But that's 3 hours of a week, 24 hours in a day. So the rest of the time they eat like shit. They don't train on their own. They're not building the habit and pattern of going to the gym on their own. So, I would get people good results while they worked with me, and then a lot of them would fall off. Or, they would do really good on the training side of things, but they wouldn't follow my nutritional advice. I just didn't have enough control of all the variables that it needed to get people these true crazy, crazy transformations that I wanted to give people. And so and I knew that like online was the next logical step for me in my business. So I started fucking around online, and I realized like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like the same shit that works, the same acquisition system that worked um, in-person training is not getting me clients online. The things I was doing in in-person training to get clients online is not working to get me clients online. I wasn't able, I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the knowledge and the skills. So I ran across Brian Mark, his podcast. I started listening to it. I started implementing the things he was saying in his podcast. He gives a ton of value in his podcast for free. That also taught me to give value for free, because I ultimately ended up buying from him. You know what I mean? So it's like if you give, you give, you give, you give with no expectation of return. And the law of reciprocation. Universe returns it. Good things happen for you. So that was something fundamental that he planted in me, and it's something I still practice to this day. Hence all the content that I spend hours and hours of my life doing. I actually really enjoy this stuff. So I found Brian. I started looking at his program. I was like, oh, this is probably going to be expensive, but I think I need it. I think I need to do it. He's legit. He seems legit anyways. It might just be a scam, but I was like, well, fuck it, like same mentality of like, okay, well, if it's a scam or it's a waste of money and it doesn't work, like, where am I at? I'm at exactly where I was when I started. I got a successful in-person business. If I spend, however many thousands of dollars with this dude and I lose it, I can always make it back. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's fucking, you can always make more money. You don't just get free knowledge though. That's not how the world works. Like, knowledge you have to buy either with your time, or really, really, if you want the good stuff, it's with your money. And that was the other thing I knew with Brian. It was like, okay, so his podcast is super valuable. It's already helping me. But man, if he's willing to give this away for free, his paid program must be 100,000 times better, because my paid program is 100,000 times better than what I give you guys for free. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. People that pay me are much higher on my priority list than people that just want me to give them free shit. I'm happy to give you guys free shit, but you know what I mean? The guys that help me pay my bills every month, I'm going to do more for. It's just the truth. I'm going to give them a better service. I'm going to go deeper into things, and I'm going to, it's just how it works. It's how the fucking world works. You pay to play. So I got on the call with one of his closers, and they was more expensive than I had anticipated. I was like, I was hoping for, maybe I knew it was going to be expensive, but I was hoping maybe it'll be like 2 grand, maybe 3 grand at the most. No, it was 5K. I didn't have 5K. I just didn't have it. Just didn't have it. You know what I mean? It's just didn't have it in a bank account, didn't have it on a credit card. So I'm talking to this guy and I'm like, yeah, I can't really afford that, yada yada yada, maybe sometime in the future. And he's like, well, what can you do? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like $1,000. And he's like, how about 2,000? And I'm like, I don't know. Actually, good question. And I pulled up my little app and I looked at my credit card and I had a credit card that had $2,000, 23 cents on it, right? It had like a $5,000 limit, but it was already, I was in debt, so we're all in debt. And I was like, well, ironically, man, and he's like, so we'll do 2,000 up front now and then we'll, break the rest up into $1,000 payments every month. I was like, well, fuck. You know what, man? It's meant to be. That card's got exactly $2,000 on it. Let's fucking do it. And so I pulled the trigger. I put myself into massive debt. I spent money I didn't have and couldn't afford to see what would happen, and just really because I don't know, I believe in myself. I believe in the time and the place. I believe in taking action. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like that's it. I believe in taking action. I believe in not being that fucking dude who's like, oh, I need to think about it, or oh, I'll start next month. And because I've seen where that gets people, those people just stay where they're at because and then you get in these containers with these successful, like I'm in a container right now where there's coaches that regularly do 100, 200, 500, 700K a month in revenue. Brian does 2 million a month in revenue. So I'm in a container with people like this, and what I see, a common trait amongst those people is they don't wait. They don't hesitate. They don't think about it. They don't they just take action. They do their research. They look. I had done my research with Brian's podcast. I knew what it was. They look around. They take a look at the fucking program. They take a look at the resources that are available, make a decision. They make a decision really before they make a decision. And then unless there's something that person says that like viscerally offends them, it's like they just take action. Almost like I don't even need a call. Send me the payment link. You know what I mean? Like because success favors speed. So the faster you can move through things, the more successful you're going to be. So, man, I got into the to PT Dom, the first layer, and within a couple months, I was making like 8K a month online. I quit the in-person training job as quickly as I possibly could and went all the way in line. And since then, we've just been scaling. But also since then, literally every time that Brian comes to me and he's like, "Hey, I want to notch you up into the next level of the program." It's like I don't even ask like what's it going to cost. I don't. It's we believe me. They're upsells. Every single one. He's a salesman. These are upsells. Every single one of them is more expensive than the last, and I don't even hesitate. I'm just like fucking send me the link if I'm ready. If you see it, if you believe it, I believe it. Let's make more money. And then and so in that way, I've continued to reinvest scary amounts of money. Like when I look back over the last year at how much money I really invested, it's actually a little bit fucking scary. But then I look at how much money I made and the gap, and it's like, okay, well, so we spent this much to make this much. Well, isn't that fucking cool? It's just like ads. You spend money to make money, right? And so like again what I'm talking about, and that's where I'm at now, and this brings me to the present where we don't have any financial problems and we've built a very successful business and we have 100 clients. We literally have 100 online clients right now, and we're delivering and serving every single one of them because I've invested again, spend money to make money. I've invested in the business. I've hired the best coaching team in the fucking world, in my opinion. I've hired the best nutrition team, right, to make sure that we can serve these clients. And all we have to do is continue to bring on new coaches, train them in the system, train them in the method, and continue to bring on more people. We can help an exponential amount of people. Are growing exponentially now. And that's fucking cool. This is what I dreamed of, was making an impact. Not just having a job, not just being financially successful, but making a fucking impact, making a fucking dent in the world, and proving everybody that thought that I wouldn't do shit wrong. Everybody, like literally, motherfuckers just thought I was going to go back to prison. Let alone, people would have been proud of me if I would have just got out here and got like a regular job and just not went back to prison. That was how low the standard was set for me based on my actions as a child and a teenager. But I knew that I was capable of so much more. And my past doesn't define me. And I knew that. And so it didn't matter what they would have been satisfied with. I would not have been satisfied if I didn't do this. And I'm not satisfied with where I'm at now. I'm nowhere near my potential. It screams at me. It keeps me up at night. I feel like I'm so far behind my potential, I can't even almost see it. You know what I mean? Because it grows, as you learn, as you invest in more knowledge and more tools and more systems and better employees, that know how to do other cool stuff that you can add as features. And like your ability to grow just infinitely continues to grow with you as you continue to grow as a person. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess this thing was about like, just kind of the journey and what I've learned on it. And those are the core lessons, man. Like, don't be afraid to spend money, man. Like don't be afraid to, oh, well, let me reframe that. Don't be afraid to invest money. Don't just spend money. Just spending money is stupid. Investing money in knowledge, skills, it's the best thing you can do. Like it's gotten me so far, and it's something that I will continue to do every single step of the way. And and I guess to walk you through the steps. So when you start a business, you've got survival mode. What's cool about that is the thing that you have that nobody else has is time. Because now I don't have time. But back then I had time. I would sit there at my desk and I'd be like, what should I do with my day? I got back from the gym. I got up early because I believed in getting up early and like, being like acting like I had a job that was full time. Even though I literally didn't. I'd have like maybe one client a couple times a week or something. So I'd get up, I'd go to the gym early and then I'd come home and I'd be like, and I'd sit at my desk and I'd be like, what can I do today? I can make some posts. I can make some reels. They sucked. They were so bad. I go back and watch them. They're so awful. But I posted them and they get like 3 or 4 likes and it was discouraging as fuck. But I just kept doing it. I've gotten better over the years. I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And so you don't have any leverage. You don't have any money. You don't have any employees. You can't buy ads. You can't do anything that money's leverage. You know what I mean in a business. So you don't have any leverage. The only leverage you have is time. But time is a powerful lever because you care more about your business than anybody ever fucking will. So use that and invest in skills. You know what I mean? Like start to hire mentors immediately. If I wouldn't have went through the fucking 2 year I could have just started from scratch. Oh my God, it would have saved me so much hassle. So like acquire skills. And that goes for like anything too, Um, fitness, like don't just try to guess and figure it out on your own. There's people that literally this is all we do. I've worked with 620 guys at this stage now. Like it's all I do. I'm an expert. I am an expert at getting you fucking results. I have a program that will get you fucking results, guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like I'll put my money where my mouth is. So and it's taken me 15 years of trial and error and injuring myself and taking courses and going to college and getting out and starting a program and working, getting the real life experience of actually working with humans and finding out something that actually works and fits people's schedules. Um, so don't just guess. Like don't be a fucking retard, Hire an expert. And then speed and ruthless execution. So don't wait. Same with fitness, same with anything. In life, just don't wait. Success favors speed. You're here for a very short amount of time. You're on this planet for a very short amount of time, so don't fucking waste it talking about how you're gonna start. You'll do that shit till you're dead. How you're gonna start this, then it's never gonna be a good time. It's never a good time. Wasn't a good time when I started. Still not a good time. You know what I mean? It's never ever gonna be a good time. You're always gonna be busy. Money's always gonna be tight. There's always gonna be some fucking excuse. So just start. Success favors speed. Once you get stable, build your systems, remove yourself as the constraint, think leverage, scaling, and think legacy. Start thinking about a bigger, longer term picture. And then always have like the stronger that forward vision, right? So something that helped me a lot was just focusing on delivery, like building our back end and making sure our clients got a fantastic result, that we had really good retention. People wanted to stay with us for a very long time because that solves a lot of your problems, right there, and then you get good referrals. You get referral clients. I get those all the time. They're fucking awesome. They end up being like your best clients because they trust you so much coming into the program. There's like no friction getting them into the program. And then in this way, you kind of like you stabilize your program, you stabilize your delivery, and then you can really just focus on like, creating more forms of leverage and front end acquisition. But the mission isn't like just income. It's always been sovereignty, man. It's always been this is the life I want to live. This like literally I made a fucking video about like I don't know how to enjoy things outside of work. There are a few things I like outside of work that typically involve my wife. If I was like literally not with her, I would literally all I would do is work and work out because that's like basically all I enjoy other than spending time with her. You know what I mean? Like, and So this is the life I wanted to build. I wanted to post content. I have an idea. I have things I want to share. I have a story to tell. I have a system that works. I'm good at training people. I like training people. I love changing people's lives and taking them from fat and sloppy and barely able to walk up the stairs and hating themselves and disgusted with themselves to so fucking proud of who they are and doing jujitsu and you know what I mean and fucking hiking up mountains and running and feeling better and looking better and their libido's better and their wife's happier and yeah, I love that. I love it. So, all right, guys, we kind of went all over the place tonight. That's what the War Wolf does. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.